away while you kind of slowly chip away his life. Or you want to be able to, in the case of a Blade Master, you want to be able to force him to at least Town Portal. Against a Farseer and Tauren Chieftain, it's a little bit easier because the Farseer is actually really easy to nuke down. Another thing that you have to deal with when you're trying to siege your opponent's towers like this is the damn peons coming and repairing them. What Fav's been doing about this, and it's one of the only things you can do, is he just kind of runs in and does little nuke attacks on them with his heroes. You got to be careful. He's mostly the way he's managed it is pretty smart. He sends his Lich in, and he mostly just uses the Lich to do the nuking of the peons, because the Lich can pop off a Frost Nova. And I think level 3 Frost Nova should kill an Orc peon in one shot. But he's tanking with the Lich. He's letting the Lich with Frost Armor and all. He still dies from the towers, but not very quickly. And then save your coil. That's one of the things that I've noticed about pro undead players. They are very, very, very smart about when they choose to blow their coil or not. I can't tell you how many games that I've lost personally because I got a little over anxious with coil nuke, like coil Nova nuke, and I lost my Lich because of it. In the case of when you're going up against like a whole lot of towers or a whole lot of wyverns or things like that, or that human like tri-hero kind of combination where he has griffins and things like that. You really don't want to blow your coil right off the bat, because during the cooldown he'll pick off one of your heroes. So when you go to nuking, just kind of be careful, be aware of that. Before you shoot off a coil to try and kill something, ask yourself, am I going to need that to keep my Lich alive? And if the answer is yes, save the freaking coil. Let's see, I think Jout still has a shitload of money. I forget what happens throughout the rest of the game at this point. I think it's mostly a matter of Fav chasing him around the map. Huh. Oh, by the way, one of the other things that you can do when you're going for gargoyles against bats, you use the stone form to make sure not too many bats go off at the same time, which will make them all die to splash damage. However, bats only deal, I think, 140 splash damage, and the target damage is like 600. So, if you take a couple of bat hits, probably the two Gargs that were attacked directly will die. But the rest of them will only be at like a third health. So as always, when you're dealing with any kind of splash damage or area of effect damage, and you've got gargoyles, you need to bring heal scrolls. So just keep that in mind, and I think you will have pretty decent success if you decide to use this. Just remember, it's really not worth doing like off the bat. This isn't the sort of strategy where you want to just go straight for mass Gargs and say, why doesn't this work? I saw Fav do it and it was fine. A lot of the reason that and there's several reasons that it's worked for Fav. One is that he managed to keep his economy actually superior to the Orc players in the early game. He was able to get cancel, I think, 1 or 2 cancels on Jout's expansions. He was able to get his own expansion running. And meanwhile, Jout had kind of given up on expansion for a little while and decided to build up like a very large army of wyverns, and just kind of maybe he was hoping, I think, to use that in a very high level Tauren chieftain to, I guess, bully Fav around, and maybe like push his base, get rid of his expansion or anything else that he'd gotten, which is normally a pretty good plan for Orc. The only thing is Jout didn't really account for the possibility or he did account for the possibility of Gargs, because he actually built bats to begin with, but I think he may have like given up and suicided some of them into creeps or something like that, because I noticed later in the game he only had a couple. So he basically basically convinced Jout that he wasn't going for gargoyles, and then he built a shitload of gargoyles. So that's a lot of why this has worked. It's really a fairly counterable strategy for Orc, because all they really need to do is just have enough bats ready to go, and if they do, no amount of heal scrolls or anything else are going to save you if you went mass gargoyles. So it's really you need to kind of play the deception angle on it. It was the flip side of it is like Freak mentioned, where you pop out a couple of Gargs and force them to build bats in preparation for you getting more Gargs, but then you don't build any more Gargs. You just go for something like for like Ghoul Fiend, and when you do that, he ends up having too many bats that aren't really doing anything, because he managed to take out your 2 Gargs, but now he's got these bats sitting there that don't really do much of anything to help him out. And your Ghoul Fiend, therefore, will be taking less like instantaneous damage from the wyverns, because there'll be fewer wyverns and more bats, and you do pretty good. I think the reason Fav didn't try that to begin with, I think, is because he wanted to go straight for destroyers and just maybe hope to get like some burrow kills or something like that. Honestly, like I think Fav's only real strategy in the early part of this game was just to, I mean, the thing that he did that won. He got the early expansion cancels. Once the Orc hit tier 2, the thing that really won the game for him was the fact that he got that expansion up, and he towered it adequately. And then he played pretty conservatively from that point, just kind of like keeping an eye on his opponent's expansions and things like that, but just played and kept fairly close to his expo where he could defend it and everything like that. So if you're trying to deal with Orc on Lost Temple, an Expo is a pretty good choice. That's all for this one. I know it was a little bit disjointed. I actually spent a lot of time, believe it or not, watching this replay and trying to figure out exactly what had happened in it, because I really didn't even have a concept of the fact that Gargs could win against opponent with bats like that, unless you trick them into doing something totally stupid, like pretending hiding your Gargs completely and getting them to just like nuke down your Destros, and then all of a sudden bringing the Gargs in. Another thing I want to mention for microing Gargs when you're trying to kill wyverns with them, is you really need Frost Nova, because otherwise the wyverns can actually run away from the Gargs pretty decently. So ideally you want to pop a Frost Nova on them, and then like shift click all your Gargs to attack the wyverns. That way the wyverns aren't really going to be able to run away, and they'll die a lot quicker. As opposed to, say, your Gargs all getting like chain lightninged while they try to chase the wyverns around. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Even if my audio was not stellar, I thought it's a pretty exciting game, and maybe that made up for it. Today for the music, I'm going to use something from the, I guess, band. I don't know what the hell you call them. I mean, they're not really DJs, I don't think, but they're techno people, whatever. The techno people known as Hybrid, off their album Wider Angle, which, if you guys are into like trance or anything like that, and you get annoyed with it being repetitive or lazy, goddamn, this album is not repetitive or lazy. I mean, I cannot, as somebody who actually makes this sort of music sometimes, I cannot conceive the amount of work that went into like changing up the drum loops and keeping everything interesting on this album. I mean, it is just fantastic. So Wider Angle, or Wide Angle by Wider Angle is just a special edition. So Wide Angle by Hybrid is an awesome album. They have a later one called Morning Sci-Fi. I actually don't like it quite as much. So I'd like to thank Killer Frog for helping me do some tests on the properties of bats versus gargoyles, because I wasn't sure exactly how stone form interacted with those explosions. And that's about it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and I'm sorry it's been so long since my last audio commentary. This is Fray, signing out.